to be the way that these LATAM teams want to go, as it has been the decider in the previous 2 matches as well. Already in and amongst this banning phase here. Lion, Thatcher are going to be removed. We're going to see Team 1 now choose to get rid of the old Vigil. So that's probably a good pick, honestly. You could throw a dart at a wall, and wherever it'd land on someone on the side of NIP that plays that operator.
Yeah, I mean, Psycho especially has been playing a lot of Vigil. NIP really like to go on their big roams, so it doesn't surprise me. It's very different bans to what we saw Team 1 go for earlier on in the day, which was Flores and Aruni, which I would say, and Aruni I would understand against NIP, but Flores would definitely have been a lot more, tailored towards Furia. So you can tell that Team 1 are very specifically going for those operators that they think NIP would benefit from the most.
Yeah, the Flores bans are quite an interesting one, because it was something that we did see NIP bring quite a bit against Liquid. I think you'll have been trudging your way through central London at that point, but it was something that they used to try and gain control of, particularly through the vents in the roof. It was something that NIP did quite as quite a conscious decision. Now it's something that we maybe see Team 1 bringing out here as well, as Alamau has 6 picked on into it. I mean, as if the attackers needed anything else, another piece of kit to add to their sort of overflowing arsenal here on Coastline. Obviously, we've had Lion removed here, and that's one of the fun things about Coast, is you do get to see a little bit of Lion action, but still, there's just a plethora of operators that you can bring to really assist you here on the attack.
So this is a Rook. I'm sure Riley's going to be happy about that one. You got so excited before when Rook came out. This time, I'd imagine it is to kind of help out with the fact that a Jaeger hasn't been brought at all. But it's always nice to have a cheeky little ACOG as well. But yes, not one of those operators that we always see here on Coastline. I suppose in most maps. So I'm interested to see how that one's going to go. Warden 2, I mean, that allows for the second shield, especially. But there aren't any smokes being played on the side of Team 1. So his gadget's kind of meaningless.
These lineups are very mismatched, aren't they? You know, we look on the side of NIP, nobody's running the shotgun. We've got a Warden, a Mute, and a Smoke, and nobody is running the shotgun.
We had that on the last day of BR6 as well. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was weird.
They did the MP5K and the FMG9.
I mean, you've got the impacts, but so I guess you still get your rotates, but it's still weird to see.
I'm just going to point out, MP5K on Mute, I saw a certain Sternab say that was a Plat 3 thing to do.
Yeah, I saw that.
Kamikaze would like a word.
Yeah. Someone make that happen on Twitter, quote tweet it and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, obviously, if Kamikaze wins the round off the back of his gun skill alone, then that'd really add to the cause there. But we'll see how much of an impact it has. It's certainly going to give NIP a bit more potential to challenge quite heavily on these gunfights. They're not going to be restricted by horrible recoils to control and small magazine counts of SMG-11s. Instead, they're going to have, you know, a little bit more bite and a bit more opportunity. Muzi going to be the first to fall here as KDS finds some success, but vertically, Julio is able to gain a refrag.
Still going for these kills. Julio's going to break through into security. I'm not sure there's anyone too close to him. I can't see any orange silhouettes nearby. I mean, Neskin's basically directly above him, but that's so much of a problem. Not so much of a problem right now. Lagonis, you don't kill your teammates. At least he can get Psycho, and with the knife no less, as Team 1 continue to clear up on NIP. But still, as an ouch.
Julio in a good position to try and flank and do something here. Pino now going to be getting pressure as Julio furthers his way in through Aquarium, but the final 2 kills come in a flash. Levy, he saw so much success from this double window. He's going to finish things out there. Keeping an eye on the flank, recognizing that site control was already taken, and Julio trying to be that difference maker, but unable to be so.
Well, gonna be going downstairs into Blue and Sunrise, it looks like. And this is practically the same lineup from NIP. They didn't have a Legion last time. And naturally, Legion's going to be a lot more useful to kind of physically prevent people from walking into the site itself. It makes sense because why would you have wanted the Warden in that last round? You wouldn't really. Now that a Twitch is being brought by the attackers, then maybe there would have been more reason to have a Warden. But they don't know that right now because she's been 6-picked on anyway.
I think it's the threat of the Ying, isn't it? And then you see the 6-pick come through and you think, you know, we probably made the right choice there in not bringing the Warden. But it's a threat that you've really got to take into account, that if Alamal's going to be flashing the Ying and eventually playing it, it's always going to be in the back of your mind there as NIP. And as you mentioned, Joe, again, a bit of a strange lineup. I think honestly, I think it's the Rook that makes it look so sort of odd. And I guess it really is just because we're not seeing... We're just not seeing the Jaeger. We're not seeing any sort of denial.
Yeah, it's very odd to not have that. Because while I talk about the fact that Rook obviously is good against projectiles, that's only for protecting yourself. Whereas usually the way that you would use those ADSs for a Jaeger is not really to protect you per se, but it's more to protect the utility. And then, you know, by extension, the utility is usually there to protect you. But Rook can't do both of those things.
No, he really can't. We'll have to see how that's going to affect NIP here. KDS going to be quickly droning into kitchen. He knows that Legion's going to be somewhere nearby, as that's where Pino's going to be playing, just on the threshold. He's already thrown out a couple of goo mines and not quite giving the game away. It's pretty obvious that somebody's going to be in there, but still it's a challenge that needs to be taken. The pre-fire now going to start to come through as vertical pressure is going to be enough to force Pino out of position. He joins forces with Psycho there, just behind main desk.
Still waiting for someone to really go for that first engagement. Alamal's not going to hang around too much at the window, even though maybe he could have had an opportunity if he had chosen to. Aggressive positioning as well from NIP over in office. They have actually a lot of their defense that is still down on the bottom floor. I think all 5 of them, in fact, are down there. So, Team 1... Oh, okay. Wait, was Rook upstairs? Yes. Team 1 will have a bit of an easier time actually opening the vertical angles if they decide they want to do that. But right now, they still, for the most part, haven't entered into the building. We're over halfway through. They're finally going to get some of the hard breach going to open up some of these walls from pool, but KDS eventually becomes the first one to fall.
It's really been a long time coming, that opening pick. It seems like it's a round that's taken a long time and the players have danced around each other for quite some time. Well into the final minute now, but kills starting to come in for NIP. Playing the patient game and letting Team 1 run on into them. Alamal would be next up as he gets himself into an engagement inside a kitchen, worried about the prospect of a flank, and instead he's going to have to dip on back. Neskin, he's going to try and enter on through into Sauna, but he too will be taken down. Alamal has got to step up in a big way. We've seen him do it before, but he hasn't got a lot of time to execute in here. Got to find 4 kills in 15 seconds. Currently, he's going to be inside of that garden area. Looking to push on through now. Gets taken out by Kamikaze. Just laying prone on the Cool Vibe stairs. NIP get themselves around here.
Yeah, I mean, Team 1 really just didn't have any way into the building.
No.
They maybe could have been a bit more assertive if they decided to go upstairs. But NIP had presence over in kitchen. They had presence on the site. They had presence in office. They had presence upstairs. And so either way, they were going to face some kind of pushback, regardless of what route they decided to go for. Evidently, the fact that I think they were so fractured out didn't help with the assertiveness that they could have had. But, you know, regardless, NIP will be moving on to kitchen and service for their next site. Again, it's a very similar lineup, just slight changes. They haven't got the Melusi this time. They don't have a Legion this time. They've reverted back to bringing Warden, which I suppose is okay, because they'll of course know that Twitch was bought in that last round, and again Alamau was 6-picked onto Twitch again. So especially here on Kitchen, where you are, I think, more likely to expect a smoke plant than any of the other sites, I would say that the Warden's a lot more justifiable.
It is. At this point, I am really heavily questioning why a Jaeger isn't being brought here. It just seems like the obvious choice. It's going to solve a couple of problems for NIP. It frees up the Rook pick, it frees up the Warden pick, and they can start to bring a couple of other options. But maybe it's a question we will get to pose depending on how this game finishes. Pino, he's got a bit of an idea that a lot of people are getting themselves up onto the rappel, but for the time being, he's just going to hold himself back. Maybe just play for a drone. It's arguably as valuable as a couple of chip points of damage. It's going to remove something away from these attackers, and already the drones for Team 1 have dwindled down to 6.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of struggling with their drones back on Oregon as well, even though on Cathay they weren't having too terrible a time with them. So it's kind of an odd one to have. It means that if they lose any more, which they have, they're down to 5 now, they're going to rely a lot more on face checking, which we know how that can be. You get too aggressive, you swing around a corner. I mean, what's going to go on there?
Lagonis has been able to open up an angle there, expose Julio somewhat, but it really is maybe something that could come back to hurt the attackers as well. Now, there hasn't been what I would call a comprehensive clear of the top floor so far. It's not an approach that Team 1 have chosen to take. Instead, they're really trying to get themselves advantages through challenging on into these different windows and doorways. Finally, we get a bit of presence up here, but Alamau is instantly traded. Because Alamau was acting alone inside of the theatre, there's not going to be anyone there for the refrag. It's going to be Levy to come through luggage, find one onto Pino. Now, has he got up-to-date accurate information? The answer is no. Psycho there, ready and waiting to take him on down. Still, for the time, an advantage for Team 1. But what about this? Psycho, he jumps himself out of the big window, hits a triple on the round, and says, Julio, it's on you from here. Lagonis, he's going to be getting the plant down under the cover of KDS. Julio going to go for the swing. Lands a good couple of shots there, but he's not going to have much ammo left inside of the Vector. The C4 comes out. It won't be successful. Hits the reload. Looks to try and make his way on in. Still ducking and diving. Seeing if he can get the opening. KDS there with the pre-fire will be successful. We finally see a plant, Geo.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. This is the first, not just the first plant, but the first attempt at a plant that we've seen throughout the entire series so far. And yeah, at the end there, Team 1 basically won that off the back of the kill that they got, because there were a lot of back and forths leading up to that. And I think that Team 1 probably faced a bit more adversity than they could have, purely based on the fact that NIP had quite a lot of presence upstairs. So if you've got someone like Psycho who's ready to swing into theater, then great, you're gonna have all of that backwards and forwards. And really the only person who was applying any pressure upstairs prior to that was Levy, and he was doing so from the roof and trying to hold angles through into luggage, trying to spray into pink, and also down towards cool vibes as well. So that was really it from that perspective, and I think that's what led to quite a lot of the bloodbath in the middle of the round. But as soon as there was space enough for Team 1 to plant, and then, you know, they win the 1 versus 1 at the end that was required, then of course they put the round on the board, regardless of the control that NIP had previously in the round.
Well, back upstairs we go into hookah and billiards. An opportunity again here for Team 1. It's a site they were successful in round number 1. They're going to be coming up against a couple of spawn peaks here, though. Pino just not going to hold it for long enough. Sad to see, as he would have maybe had a chance there. Again, NIP are rocking the no shotguns allowed combination, instead relying on the impact that Psycho is going to bring on the Rook for the 2 rotations that they require. but it really does limit what they're able to do, not only in terms of rotation, but also in terms of vertical. They're not able to open any of those vertical angles. They're going to struggle in any sort of off-site prep and setup as well. What they're not going to struggle in is opening engagements. Pino eventually braves a repeat on the window and will be able to take down Levy. Alamau comes out with the trade. Neskin now going to be looking to push in through from that aquarium side.
The Flores drones are getting prepped to lead the way into the site itself. So, of course, they know that the shield's in the back. They can get rid of that pretty well. NIP cleared that space, so Pino can just hold cool vibes for now. And it could give Team 1 a bit of room. And they're looking like they're going to be coming in through Aqua as well. But Psycho's trying to hold on to the angle. I mean, at least Team 1, they have this presence on either side of the site. They want to form this pinch, and that's how Lagonis is going to be going in for the plant. Try and keep the defenders distracted, but Julio getting the kill onto Alamau is going to give him access to a lot more room. It's not going to stop the plant, however.
Yeah, the plant does go down, but at what cost? At this point, Neskin being the only one alive, he's going to be outside on the rappel. This nade has to be picture perfect, and it won't be. Julio is there with the cover. The disable already being stuck. NIP successful with the retake. A desperate plant. Not under ideal circumstances. Losing Levy there early for Team 1 was a real big problem. We cast our minds back to how that round went down in round number 1. Levy was the player that was on the big window, cutting through the site, able to take down a couple of players and really lock off all the angles. Had he been in position to do so, or had anyone else from the side of Team 1 taken up that location, we maybe see that plant sticking for just a little bit longer.
So 2 successful plants for Team 1, but only one of the rounds went to them. And now NIP returning back downstairs. I mean, again, we've seen this composition. It's all very similar. And my big criticism of Team 1 last time they attacked onto this site was the fact that they didn't look super cohesive. And at no point did they really make any progress in actually making it into the building. You know, the fact that Lagonis actually opened up the pool wall was nice. I like the fact that they're being active in their use of hard breach, even on a site like Kitchen, where you can go a very long time without seeing any hard breach be used, to be perfectly honest. I think maybe it would have been more ideal had he done it a little bit sooner, and I know naturally it involves removing certain pieces of utility. If you have denial involved, in this case you don't for the walls. Maybe if they'd done it a bit sooner, they would have had a more streamlined idea of how to actually get into the site itself, because back in round number 2, that just seemed to be what was lacking for Team 1.
Let's see how this top floor clear comes in this time. Already shields and utility going to be getting dealt with inside of Hookah. Muzi going to be on the hunt for the drones. KDS and Alamau had quite a lot to say on clearing out this top floor previously. But there just was a little bit of a disconnect between the two players, and they weren't quite able to get trades off as effectively as they would maybe like. Something we've not seen yet so far today is any Nomad play. And that could really assist in some of these tentative holds that Team 1 are getting themselves into. But at least Levy is going to be successful inside of that one. Taking down Pino, this time not being the first blood, but instead involved in the engagement in a positive way. Muzi will respond, taking down KDS. And with it, a lot of information and a couple of nades.
Here's Lagonis getting ready with the X-Kairos, but is not in the same position that he was before. He's actually going to be using it upstairs and wants to open up Hookah. I'm going to hold that angle all the way down, and you can see that Julio has got to be aware of it because he's kind of trapped in that corner, and as a direct result, he'll be trading out places with Muzi. Muzi's better equipped to be holding on to cool vibes, yes. And he's gonna be trying to deal with the 1v1 against Lagonis, but there is a nice shot from Neskin to come in and just trap him. That gives Team 1 all the space in the world upstairs directly above the site, something they failed to acquire last time. And this could be a game changer for them. They can get maybe a pick from above. They already have the man advantage. They're very close to getting one as Julio loses about half his health.
Team 1 have got a little bit of time to work with here as well. And in terms of the execute, Kamikaze going to be trying to smoke on off. Alamar going to gather the intel there on the Flores drone. Kamikaze has to push back on through, but he is able to take down Lagonis. A key kill here inside of the round, as that's Diffuser not in a handy location to be collected, honestly, with only 20 seconds left to go. Someone's going to have to try and push on in and pick that kit up. Kamikaze still can just continue to watch. Another Flores drone's going to come on through and deal a little bit of damage as a hot drop has to come in from Levy. He's going to land one. He's going to pick up a second. Levy, a big round here, but it isn't going to be enough. Julio, he just hides out inside of blue. Not quite a cool vibe stairs, but still acting like a cool cat, sitting there just behind the wall, knowing that all he's got to do is waste a couple of seconds.
Just acting like a cool cat.
Cool cat.
Whatever you say. Whatever you say.
It is whatever I say, Gio.
Quite a few rounds throughout the entire course of this series now that have been won on time. Like, more than you would usually expect from a regular series.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been a little bit of a strange one in that regard. I think it's just how teams are happy to let things happen, and it's something we've seen NIP be very comfortable with in the past, is the clock. And if they're happy to just say, you know what, we're just going to let this one run out on time, we're going to stay alive, then maybe that's the call. The Diffuser was in a really awkward position there for Team 1, and it was always going to have to come down to the kills as soon as Lagonis got taken out.
Well, that was the first round of all the rounds here on Coastline that was won by the team who won the previous round. So, I mean, maybe NIP will keep up that streak, finish on a 4-2 at the half here on Coastline. They obviously had a really dominant game against Team Liquid. It was a 7-3 victory for them, whereas Team 1's game against Furia was 8-7. So, that went all the way into overtime. And that's not to say that this game couldn't go into overtime, but NIP have already got that proven track record literally from today that they're pretty strong on Coastline. So we'll see how this fares and if they can keep it up, because it hasn't looked, I mean, definitive one way or the other, but a lot of the things that have happened here on Coastline have looked more to come down to the gunfights, especially when you consider this NP5 FMG kind of style that NIP have been going for, which by default just says, yeah, we want to shoot.
It's worth noting that a lot of the rounds for NIP came on that attacking side as well. They were actually able to go flawless against Liquid on the attack, and that was the thing that really set them apart from the rest. So there's still time for that side swap to come in. This is going to be the last round here as the sides currently sit. And then we do get to see NIP maybe stretch the legs on a map that they are very confident on at the moment. But still, this is a chance for Team 1 to level things up, as they're going to be attacking into the kitchen site yet again. Now, this top floor clear that we've seen from Team 1, it's been very, very soft both times. But with the stack up of players above the bathroom hatch, and you already see one player dropping on in, Alamar going to drone out ahead, a very well placed Flores drone. Prime and ready to remove that deployable shield and put the pressure on Muzi right from the get-go.
And when Muzi got taken out here before, this is where Psycho was well equipped to just jump straight into action. You can see he's right next to him just in case. But he doesn't even need to avenge Muzi or anything, because he can just get the kill straight onto Neskin. There's the avenging. Finally it came in. Team 1 struggling to push in through Master and Theater as they had been the last time they came to deal with this site.
I mean, the round isn't exactly won and lost in this top floor clear, but it isn't something that we see Team One be so successful in. Levy will eventually be able to find out Psycho. Psycho trying to scurry out of Alamal's flashbang range, and instead will get himself stuck into a crossfire. Now the Flores drone is being used to open up vertically, but Pino is able to take down Levy from behind main desk. Alamal now drops, looking for a bit of access in through kitchen window. But these are desperate measures. If Alamal tries to hop in, he's going to be greeted by the P10 Roni of Pino. Lagonis, the last alive, regularly this is the case. He's in the 1 versus 3, and he's got 15 seconds to try and make something happen to save NIP, seeing a very dominant side. And, well, NIP are going to see it. A 4-2 split here. Pino, he's going to pick up the last 2 kills inside of that round. There wasn't a lot there for Lagonis and Alamal to accomplish.
No, and honestly, like, looking back on those 6 rounds, the only one that I can really pinpoint as saying that Team One had a decent upstairs clear was in round 5, and they didn't even win round 5 because of the time at the end. But yeah, in rounds 3 and 6, which are the 2 times that they visited kitchen, they really struggle with that. Funny enough, in round 3 is when they planted and they won the round, but it certainly wasn't off the back of getting a good upstairs clear. That was not it.
It's really something that they've struggled with tonight here on this map. And I mean, attack as a whole has been a pretty torrid time for Team One throughout the course of not only this grand finals, but also the quarterfinals prior to this. Team One have really struggled in that regard. And you do wonder how they're going to fare when they get down to the major in a couple of weeks' time in Mexico, because obviously that's where they're going to get pushed and pressured even more so. But for the time being inside of this match, they're going to be switching sides. They're going to be on the defense, and they now have a chance to try and flick that mental switch and change things around a little bit here. NIP, though, they're in a dangerous position. We've seen them play on Coastline already tonight. We've seen them attack very well tonight. And you just do wonder how quickly this one could slip through Team One's fingers.
Well, I guess we'll find out. We've got plenty of time in which to do so. Team One are actually bringing a Jaeger with them and going for maybe a composition that we would feel more comfortable looking at.
It's a bit more pleasing to the eye, isn't it?
It is. It is. You know, and we know that they like to play the Echo. They actually haven't decided to bring smoke, so that's their only anchor that they're going for here. Everybody else can really be played off-site, and I would imagine that they'll probably lean into that flexibility that they have to do so. Now, NIP are going to be spending some time droning, and did that pest catch out a drone directly, or no? I don't think it did. I think that was the pest that we're looking at. So NIP do drive into it.
NIP with a very direct approach here. They're not looking for much more than they need. There is going to be Levy playing below, but on Echo, he's not going to have a C4, so he doesn't have much room to really affect the plan vertically that way. Instead, he's going to be looking to try and use his yokais. We do see an opening kill come in onto Alamal, so maybe one of the 3 C4s that Team One were bringing out of action. It's forced it's forced Levy into a rotate as well. He's now had to get himself up a little bit higher. Pino, though, is going to be seeing a lot of success. It's a very narrow angle on that Tarps rappel, but he certainly finds a lot of kills through it. Team One are going to be rotating through and getting caught out as they move back on into sight. Levy will find one onto Psycho. Could potentially see a second here, but the pressure is just going to be too much. Pino's on a triple kill from the same position. Drops himself off the rappel, but Neskin pushes on through. Takes down Kamikaze, the diffuser now on the threshold to Hookah. Julio is going to come in and take down Neskin. KDS, he has to hit his shots here. Finds one, can't find the second. Julio floods on into the site. There was information on KDS there. What a clean round there from NIP.
Oh, I mean, it was really nice. And I think the way that they, again, they, opened up the reinforced wall on Hookah with the X-Kairos pellets, it put so much pressure on that position at Vaz. And in a lot of cases, that won't necessarily be opened, and it means it's harder to flush out that defender from that space. So it either forces them into submission and into, passiveness, or you force them to rush forward into the site and get aggressive, which is what Team 1 did, and they got a couple of nice kills out of it. But still, NIP had that surrounding presence, which meant that they could always get that trade. And it's something we spoke about all the way back in Cafe, was NIP a very good, especially on the attack, at having the trade positions. So it was a really, really nice round from them, especially as they didn't need to do a ton of encroaching themselves. They had a lot of control of Hookah, and you compare that to Team 1, who on their attack, they came in from an aqua push and didn't actually put tons of pressure on Hookah themselves.
It's kind of bold from Team 1 to go back here again, because, I mean, realistically, what are you going to do about Pino on that rappel? He was a menace. He found himself 3 kills. And there isn't a great deal that you can really do to directly deal with that. Now, potentially a run out, potentially somebody getting a C4 out there or something of that nature. But if we see a similar execute enabled by NIP, it could be a very similar result here. Time will tell. For the meantime, it looks as though they've not stacked that Hookah side of the map too heavily. Instead, they're going to be going in through the kitchen. A couple of pests that are going to be in their way as the drone work is just going to be slowed down ever so slightly. But Psycho's able to get himself in and discover that the majority of office and the bottom of blue bar are clear, at least clear enough for him to hop on in.
Still, a lot of droning. I'm really interested in this Kaid pick, just because of what I mentioned about the breaching from NIP being as effective as it was. Now it's all gone over onto the pink wall, which is typically, and of course the hookah wall as well. So the pink wall is typically where you would expect a breach to be done onto this site. The hookah wall is, of course, where they did it in the last round. So given how useful that was for NIP in their last round, this could be a difference maker. And you can see they don't have quite as much of a surrounding presence on Hookah as they did before, and they're going in for a different approach and to maybe come round from a different angle, because that spot is not going to be as accessible to them.
There's a good bit of adaptation from Team 1. They've been able to solve a little bit of a problem there, and it's forced a very different approach. Open engagement is being threatened. I'm not sure that Muzi knows where KDS is. He certainly doesn't. He doesn't even glance to his right. KDS gifted a chance at a freebie, and he'll take it. Shuts down Muzi. Still a job to be done here, as positions are now being established. Pino has got himself onto his favoured rappel location and will start to dish out the damage. Levy is going to take a ton of shots as Julio takes down Lagonis. Just going to try and find an alternate angle onto Levy. He knows he's only going to be 1 bullet away at this point. One nade in pocket, excuse me. He has got the chance to try and make something happen with that as well. Oh, a bit of a miss drone there. Psycho isn't going to be having as much information as he perhaps could like. Still enough to chunk down KDS, but if he tries to aggressively push on in, Neskin is here and Neskin is unaccounted for. There's a live ping onto Kamikaze and Neskin can cause the damage here. The kills flood in for Team 1.
Yeah, that was a round. I appreciate the fact that NIP wanted to go for a different approach, but it felt like they took the longest way round they could possibly have thought of. And the fact that Kaid made such a difference in their ability to do what they wanted to do is, I almost want to say, a little bit concerning. But they just spent so much time doing what they just tried to do, and there were moments where you could tell they were lacking vigilance, like with the Muzi and KDS thing. They just weren't necessarily paying attention enough. And yeah, it came to punish them. It made it harder and harder to actually execute on the push as time went on, because you got fewer people working on it. not the best round from NIP, and especially when you consider that the previous one was actually quite good, it almost looked night and day.
The previous one was such a set piece. It was really well rehearsed, and it looked so flawless. And then you look at that and you're like, oh, guys, there was one mute jammer that was stopping you. Like, figure it out, you know, like just work something out to deal with that one mute jammer, and then get the wall open the same as you did inside of round number 1. And it was something that really started to slow them down. So I guess one of those unfortunate circumstances where you do just come over a little bit of a stumbling block. NIP are now going to be attacking onto double bar inside of Sunrise and Blue. We're yet to see a sort of very aggressive approach from NIP, and it's something that it's a round they like to throw in every now and then, so we've got to keep our eyes out for it. I'm not sure if we're going to see it inside of this game, if I'm being honest with you, but it would be nice to see them just inject a little bit more pace, because they do tend to work well under that pressure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they have... One thing I will say is they have a lot of utility to get rid of utility. They've got 4 nades, and they have all the forest drones too. So there's a lot that they can do here. And when you consider the fact that removing utility was part of the problem that NIP had in the last round, suddenly having really everything they need to deal with whatever it might be could make a substantial difference, potentially. Or maybe it won't. Maybe it will be a disaster for them. But the Flores is really what I'm going to be looking at. And you can already hear it detonating. Although that was above, so I guess it opens up some of the vertical holes. And I would assume that there was probably something up there as well.
It's scary how much damage the Flores drone does to floors. It really is pretty shocking. It's a good little pseudo breaching charge or a swing of Sledge's hammer, really, in a pinch, if that's what you need. And it just speaks further to the flexibility of the operator. There isn't a flank watch that's being brought here by NIP, and you can just start to see orange silhouettes getting a little bit antsy. We're seeing players thinking about maybe making that rotation. Lagonis, for one, is happy to challenge on these cool vibe stairs. We've got KDS and Levy maybe about to pull off a little bit of a flank here. They will be greeted if they walk up those stairs, although Pino for the time being has rotated off, so maybe they're going to have a free ride, but we can just see there is going to be a silhouette directly above them that we'll be watching off on that flank. They've made so much noise as well. Julio, he's going to be gifted a kill over onto Levy. Neskin, he's going to try and make that reverse push as well, but it really hasn't been successful here for Team 1. ADS and Lagonis, now the last 2 alive. A very aggressive swing from Lagonis, but he will be taken on down. 4 versus 1, 25 seconds. KDS, got a lot of angles to check. Julio will be your undoing. Flank watch, you need a Nomad when you have a Julio.
So unfortunate at the end as well, because Kamikaze actually started planting in that round, and he lost a ton of health from a Toxic Babe canister that came out to deny him. And I think the idea that he was going to go in for that plant essentially while the others were busy doing other things, so there wasn't really enough of a defense to deal with that. But that's what pushed him out. And Lagonis, to be perfectly honest with you, probably could have landed a kill onto him, especially if he hasn't hesitated at the start. But I don't know, Kamikaze in the Bearing 9, he just came back at him, which in and of itself was not the reason that they won the round. But when I saw Kamikaze start to lose a ton of health and NIP were getting involved in all of these different engagements, it looked kind of touchy, because it looked like the central part of their plan was to get Kamikaze in and to plant.
Well, that last round has put NIP onto a match and a series point here. They are poised, ready to be crowned the champions here inside of the Copa Elite 6 Stage 2 finals. They have been on quite the spree since 6 Invitational. I think this would be a nice addition to the trophy cabinet for them, as they are really looking to cement themselves as winners and champions at every single level. And they're proving that here and now. 1 round is all that stands between them. Team 1 have A ways to go yet. They need to pick up 3 rounds on the bounce if they're going to hope to take this one into an OT.
Well, let's see if they can do it. It would, if NIP win here, it would of course be the same scoreline that they got against Team Liquid. It would be very fitting. You can hear some drones going off in the distance. I'd say Julio's been doing a pretty decent job on the Flores, to be honest. It's not necessarily an operator that NIP bring all the time, but they've been pretty effective at it. I mean, we just saw that shield go down in kitchen, probably by a Flores drone.
Yeah, we got to ask Julio about the Flores, and he said it's something that they're looking to really start to try and bring, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, this map just screams Flores if you think about it. You're able to gather some info for free. Lagonis. It was either Lagonis or Alamau. They've not heard the drone there, and it's going to give a little bit of information away. It's not going to make the job any easier. These players are Team 1 that are trying to hold on to this top floor. The site being kitchen. The vertical control is very important indeed. Now the Flores drones can start to come on through. There's so much intel available here for NIP. You haven't got a great deal of drones remaining. Only 3 left alive, but they've gathered a lot of that information. A Flores drone now going to come on in through the vent onto those white stairs. C4 going to swing and miss from Alamau. Things really hotting up here as we enter the final minute.
Still all 10 men remaining. You just know it's going to be a bloodbath. Regardless of which way it swings, you just know that's how it's going to be. Kamikaze is trying to hold on to some narrow angle through the service door. Muzi can see the feed. Oh no, Alamau, you're going to be the first death in this round, and that could start to swing things towards NIP as Muzi can just hold on right here. Kamikaze from outside of service, continuing to play patiently, and Ollie, all the kills are coming in.
They really are. It's a very pressurizing situation now for KDS and Levy. We've seen Levy have a good couple of pop-off rounds tonight, and he needs one here to keep Team 1 in this thing. KDS looking to make a rotation in upstairs. A C4 that was pre-placed won't land anything, but Muzi's shots will. KDS now has a mountain to climb. He's got plenty of intel and is going to find himself one, but it is not going to be enough. Who better than Julio to finish off the proceedings here tonight? That is going to lock NIP in. That is going to mean that they are the winners here inside of the Copa Elite 6 Grand Finals for Stage 2.
So NIP have proven that they're the best team in the world, and then they've come back to Brazil and proven once again that they are the best team in all of Latin America. And of course, both of these teams are going to be moving forward into the major that's going to be held in Mexico in August. And who knows, maybe they'll get to prove once again there that they are the best team in the world, I guess.
Again? It really is that thing from NIP at the moment. You just get the feeling that these guys are on the top of their game. They just want to go out there and win everything. Whatever the competition is, whether it's 6 Invitational, whether it's the Copa Elite 6, whether it's going to be the Mexico Finals, Mexico Major, you know that they're going to have their eyes firmly set on that. These guys are looking to build and cement